So next one, hi Dave, it's great to see you doing so well. Thanks for doing this series with the doc. It is deeply interesting to hear from someone who acknowledges both the bodybuilding side of hormone use as well as the clinical side. By the way, Dave is always doing well. Dave lives a good life and is always within about 2% body fat of
maybe not that low
of stage ready competition, right?
I know some good people between you and Aaron Poser.
Can you please ask Dr. Rand to compare and contrast Aromatase, Femara, and Aromatase in the context of HRT, meaning consistent use, not just short-term cycling? Do they all lower LDL, and how do we deal with this? Thanks again, Casey Dar. Well, Aromatase, which is also generic is anastrozole, Femara, he notes here the generic is letrozole, are both aromatase inhibitors. Aromatase works differently, exemestane, in that it is what we call a suicide inhibitor. Not worth going into the physiology about that, but they all work fairly similarly in the sense of efficacy to lower estrogen. Okay, and that's what we're after here. When I was doing my organic chemistry, I actually focused on the AIs, the aromatase inhibitors, because just the interest from the years of wanting to know more about this and being involved in it the way I was and still am. As I understand it, as I recall, it's been a while, letrozole was actually invented first as an aromatase inhibitor. The problem with it was we found that it mildly elevated liver enzymes, but it's much more potent as an aromatase inhibitor than is anastrozole. So, for example, in comparing for most people, everyone reacts a little differently. You could use 2.5 milligrams of letrozole maybe once every 4 days compared to, in some people, anastrozole 1 milligram every day, or
Is that too much? 1 milligram every day?
Well, again, it all depends. How do we know? It's too much if it lowers your estradiol, again, which we use as a surrogate marker for total estrogens, to below 15 or 20 picograms per milliliter.
But most people don't get tested, though. They don't.
Well, that's a problem. I mean, why not? Get tested, find out where you're at. It's so worth it. It costs much less than hiring a general surgeon, and you're going to want a good one. Yeah. I mean, you don't need a plastic surgeon, but then you're talking about tripling, a $3,500 to $6,000 procedure.
Wow.
So it's worth spending, what are we talking about here? Really, a couple $100 to see, okay, I've been doing this, and this is what I do. I mean, we'll put you on what I call a prophylactic dose. I choose anastrozole because standard of care says if I can get it done with something that has less possibility of a negative side effect, that's what I got to use. So that's standard of care. We use anastrozole rather than letrozole. And then in 90 days we do a follow-up to see, okay, are we doing this in the right way? In other words, are we hitting the sweet spot of estradiol? Letrozole is reserved for the cases where somebody's liver is acting differently, and things that you can do, like, in some cases, people that like to have a couple or more glasses of wine a night. I'm not here to lecture, but that's going to, who would I be? I'd be a hypocrite to, but you know what I'm talking about. I mean, there's a glass, every once in a while, there's a glass every night, or there's a bottle every night. Yeah. The point being that alcohol can upregulate an enzyme that also will, meaning aromatase, that will make testosterone convert into estrogen more often. So maybe you have a guy who's either, in my case, I'm doing bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Maybe he's doing a little something on the side that he's not being quite honest with me about. Or even if he is, I mean, it's my obligation to protect him. If he's telling me, look, I'm doing, 600 milligrams a week of test and whatever. Okay, to use the alcohol example, if you're an alcoholic and you're drinking, a handle every night, am I supposed to say, well, I can't help you with your liver because you're not supposed to be doing that? I have to treat these people. So every once in a while, and I say I have to. I want to. It's my job. I want to help people, right? So, so you got to give them letrozole because the anastrozole 1 milligram every day isn't helping. It's not gonna cut it. And even I've tried 2 milligrams every day, and it just doesn't work. Wow. So then we switch to letrozole, and it's more powerful. And there's a mild increase in liver enzymes sometimes, but in my experience, no more than, say, if someone had a Tylenol the night before or a couple of cold beers.
Oh wow.
You know, so I don't see that big a difference. But again, we erred on the side of, well, this does function well enough,
Yeah.
so we choose an anastrozole before letrozole.
Yeah.
And again, without going into too much physiology, Aromasin does it differently, but with similar effects. So in answer to his question, for consistent use, I would choose either an anastrozole or Aromasin, honestly, because of the way it works with fewest side effects, as long as it does do its job. And then, do they all lower LDL? I think he means that they all lower HDL. And it's not really the effect of the drug itself directly lowering HDL, the so-called good cholesterol. And don't get me started on the cholesterol thing, but what happens is typically, actually, you might see a little bit of an elevation in the LDL, but you almost invariably see a little dip or more in the HDL because estrogen tends to promote better HDL, higher levels of HDL. So it's not a direct, well, it is, arguably is a direct effect of the drug, not physiologically directly, but it's because lowering estrogen will tend to lower your HDL. And that sometimes you can see, you know, if we correct it, you'll see on the report, okay, less than 6 picograms per milliliter of estradiol. Oh, look, we dropped your HDL by 8 points. Let's do what we're supposed to do, find that sweet spot of estradiol, and then, you know, we find it on the next report. What do you know? His HDL's come back to what it was beforehand.
Yeah.
Okay?
So get tested.
That could be a good take-home message anytime. Don't guess when you can test, right?
Thank you, Doc.